So I think we'll just kind of jump in. So at this point, everybody can turn off your camera. And Kate, let's you and I talk for a bit. So
Do you want me to turn mine off, Seth, or just?
sure.
Sure, okay, no problem.
I'll see you in a sec.
See you in a second. Have fun, Kate.
Thanks.
So Kate and I were just talking. She's having a little bit of minor internet issues, but we seem to be hooked up now, so that's great. So Kate, you have been teaching ESL at the Bear. How long have you been doing it?
Oh my gosh. I started I think in 2018. I think it was when we put the class together.
Mm-hmm. What prompted you? That was a class that you organized, and you went through our teachers training, of course, and you thought this would be a good thing to do, and it proved to be an incredible thing to do. And what was your background? What prompted you, and what prompted you to set up the course in the first place?
A couple of things. I've been teaching ESL at Hunter College for a long time, and I noticed that there were a lot of students at the Barrow group who were from other countries and had whose accents were sometimes getting in the way of their work. So I thought it would be great to bring the two things together, to teach a beginner's class that also incorporated ESL pronunciation issues that might be interfering or making people feel self-conscious, or just giving them a chance to work on specific sounds that were challenging in American English. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea, and it's just been wonderful. It's been really great. There's been a huge response to it.
How's the class structured? What do you do exactly?
So the class basically, we start out with every class with a warm up, just to get our mouths in shape to make the different sounds, and then we do a regular Barrow Group beginners class. So that might be monologue work, scene work, improvisations, and we do that just like in any beginner's class. But then at the end, we take about half an hour to go through the different American English sounds and how to make them, and we practice them and put them in different contexts, and then students have materials to take home to practice with. Mm-hmm. And then we review them again the next week, and then we move on. So it's basically a beginner's acting class with the ESL at the end.
And have you found that the acting portion is instrumental in people's assimilation of American dialects and helping?
Absolutely. There is nothing like speaking as yourself. For people, I think people who are speaking a second language, whatever the language is, there can be a self-consciousness or a kind of feeling like, you can't be playful with the language. You have to be very careful so you say everything right. Yeah. And being able to play in that language, I think makes it much more your own. You feel you can take ownership of it. So even the people who are in the class who are not actors find that when they go out and they make presentations or whatever, or dealing with people in their business, they're much more comfortable. They have more fun. They feel looser. They don't have to try so hard. So all the things that we work on in the beginner's acting and in all the acting classes, right, of just feeling at home with what you're saying, it translates for people, even people who aren't actors, I think, in a really good way.
That's fascinating. Where do you get students from all over the world? I mean, where do you?
All over the world.
Where?
All over
List
the world.
some of the places.
Okay. Burkina Faso, Israel, Spain, Russia, Ukraine, France. I'm just going through my last class. Uh, Italy, Mexico. I mean, just every class is like that. It's amazing. It's
Wow.
amazing, and and they're all at home together. You know, because it can feel. I think it can be overwhelming if you're from another country to come into a class and you're surrounded by people who are natives to the place you are. But this way, they've all kind of come in. And another thing about people who have come here is that they tend to be, and this is why I love teaching ESL, they tend to be incredibly brave people, right? Because they have left their country to come here. You know, I was born and raised in New York. I've never gone anywhere. So I really admire this, like, just, you know, pull up stakes and go. And yeah, so.
Wow. And do you have a wide range of, how can I ask this, I imagine some of your students have been in the States a while, and some, do you have some students who are just pretty much new speakers of English? And
not new speakers of English, but definitely different levels of proficiency and comfort with the language. There are people who I had one student who was here as a research fellow, and she'd just come over from Italy like a month before she started class. And then there are other people who've been living here for a long time.
Wow.
So it's a range. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of the things I've noticed that's always fascinated me is that I guess people have different sort of, I don't know what the word is, but some people are able to process new sounds and assimilate them relatively easily, and some people it's more of a challenge. And what do you attribute that to? What allows some people to kind of pick it up quicker than others?
You know, some people just have good ears. The same thing as, I think, musicians. You know, people who are natural musicians, people whose pitch is right on, and people who aren't. Also, for English, it has to do with what their first language is, because there are some languages, like the Scandinavian languages, have a lot of the same sounds as our language does. But if you're looking at Eastern Asian languages, we have sounds they just don't have anything near. So it's kind of like they're throwing darts, you know, hoping it gets in the right place until they find it in their mouths. So yeah, but I think it's a combination of just a natural ability to hear and produce, and what the interference is from the first language.
And so what's the online version of this? In other words, when you teach online through Zoom, how is it different from doing it in person? And what have you noticed about the whole format?
Well, one difference is that when we're all together, after we've worked on the sound, on how to make the sound and how to place it, and then we start doing the sentences out loud, or even when we're just checking, well, I make the sound and they make the sound, and, you know, we do the adjustment. I can't do it with everybody doing it at the same time anymore. That just does not work, because I can't tell who's making what sound, and it's just like, oh. So I go one by one. Wow. That's the main difference. But what's kind of cool is that I can see everyone's mouth really well. Right? I'm really close to their mouths. Which, if I got that close in class, it would be pretty uncomfortable for everybody. So I can really say, you know, you gotta bring your lips a little bit closer, or more like this. I can see it even better when it's this close up.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've noticed a similar thing in all the online classes I'm teaching, that it is a close-up form, and so you're watching people behave and do whatever they do when they're acting so close that there's a sort of a surprising gift that comes with the challenge of the format, in that as you're close, you can see things, you know, habits are, for lack of a better word, magnified, and literally, and so it's easier to zero in on things in a certain way. And it seems like the students are picking it up as well, because when they're observing others, they're also getting more of a close-up look. Is that sort of what you're describing?
That also, and I think another thing that makes that's like helpful about this weird way we're doing class now is that, you know, we want people to be relaxed. We want people to not be working. We want people to, you know, come from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot easier to do, actually, when you're sitting in your own house.
Interesting.
You know, we're sitting here, we're grounded in our own reality.
Yeah.
So I think I'm thinking as a student also, you know, I can hear myself better as myself versus being on the stage when there are people there where you're at a, that you have to kind of like relax through that remove.
Yeah, that
But in
makes
this
sense to me.
context, you know, you don't have to relax. You just I'm here in the house, you know, I'm got a coffee and I'm talking on my computer, which is also very familiar.
Yeah,
You know, so it's
that makes total sense to me. You know, I used to sometimes when I'd be like taking a shower or something, and I'd be running through this is years ago, and I'd be running through a monologue, and I would go like, oh my God, why am this just feels so much better than the way it usually feels when I'm in public performing. And I used to have a teacher that said the job of the actor is to be private in public. And hearing you say this, it just makes me think, oh yes, that's right. This affords us a certain level of privacy while we're playing. Which
exactly, and
yeah.
I think it makes it easier to receive the tools.
Yeah.
And to see how they work, you know,
Yeah, and
to feel them working.
When you say easier, when you say easier to receive the tools, what do you mean by that?
I mean, if I get, you know, well, I've seen this in my students. If I throw them a tool, they get it quicker. And like the light bulb goes off a little quicker, and the effect is there's more change.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, you know, they can feel that difference. Mm-hmm. Once they hit it, it stays with them rather than like going away as it might if you're, you know, if you're in the theater. It kind of stays, so it has more of a chance to kind of anchor in you.
It's fascinating. It really has been a sort of a pleasant surprise jumping into this medium. It's fascinating. Well, that's great. In a few moments, I'm going to chat with Lunie for a bit. In a few minutes, we'll have we'll see if anybody has any questions. If you can stick around, that would be great. All right, cool. Lunie, okay. Come on in, and we'll have a chat.
Oopsie.
There you are.
Okay, here I am. Hi.
You are. Wow, your background just did a kind of a lighting effect. It was very impressive.
Thank you.
So you're teaching both beginner classes and also kids exploration classes, right? I'm curious about the kids exploration classes. You know, there's a lot of, I have a lot of friends who are parents right now who they have their hands full, and they seem to be looking for, you know, things that their kids can do, and so I'm sort of fascinated. How is the kids programming working out on Zoom? And maybe we should start by just what is the kids programming that you're offering, or that Bear Group's offering it? But I mean, when you teach it, how do you structure it and everything? How does it work?
Yeah, so with the kids, it's just trying to get them to be comfortable working, and then working with each other. We'll do, you know, the name game, the normal stuff like that, and get to know each other. Like we'll do like a pinky buddy, who are you? And toe buddy, what do you like doing? And you know, elbow buddy.
I should clarify for everybody that these kids are 5 to 9. Is that
5
right?
to 9. Yeah, I'm not so much with the 5 to 9, but the 7 to 9s is what I've mostly worked with.
I see.
So, Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
So, yeah, just getting them comfortable working with each other. And then they discover, oh, wow, I'm not so, because, they're nervous. It's the first day, they don't know anybody. And so once they find out, we'll do something where we try to find out what they have in common. They get in the middle and say, I like pizza, and everybody who likes pizza runs around. They're like, oh my gosh, they're like me. So it's so great to watch them. Like when they first come in, they're like, I don't want to participate. Maybe some, you got one that might do that. And then they're like nervous. And then by the end, they're like, oh, wow, this is great. I have something in common with these people that don't necessarily look like me. So,
And I'm curious, I have a theory about this, but I haven't talked with you about this. I'm so curious to what you're going to say. And then
sure.
I'll share my theory.
Curious too.
But how are they doing with the Zoom format and online? And how's that been?
Well, I taught one class online, and it's just a matter of like, they're more, I told Farah this, their attention span was more focused, I think.
Online?
Yeah, it's very weird.
That's what I thought
and
with
they
them.
wanted to do, yeah, they wanted to do more stuff. Like I had an hour and they were like, oh, can we do more stuff? I was shocked by that.
I think it's this thing, and it's so foreign to me and
Yeah.
my generation. I'm 60, but I think that I noticed this with my kids. They're just so comfortable with screens.
Yeah,
They just plug right into it, which is
totally.
both awful and wonderful depending on how you look at it.
Totally.
But that's fascinating. So you find that they're more focused
Yeah.
online than in like a room.
And more willing to speak. Like I had to like mute. I was like, hey, it's great. They're like, I have something to say. I want to say stuff. And then in the room, it's like crickets. So it's very interesting. They all want to say something. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just fascinating. And
Yeah.
so you do in addition to just sort of warm up games, are there other things that you do with the children to as part
Yeah,
of the program?
totally. Yeah. So we learn about the 3 W's for them. I know there's 5 and then how, but we learn who, what,
And what do you mean by the 3 W's?
3 W's. So who, like to get them to do that, we'll look at a story like maybe like Cinderella, something they all know.
Okay.
And we'll say, oh, who's in this story and what are they doing and where are they, just to get that foundation. And then we'll work on, I'll read them a story.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell me who's in the story and what they're doing and where are they.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll like to do a game where they tell me the story in 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And it's always fun. And they have to incorporate all of that, who, what, where in that. So that's always fun. And then from there, we're building on, we'll work on a set with the story that we read.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we work on that. And then with that, we'll work on who games, like, who are you? Well, from here to there was one game where they'll crawl on their belly like a snake, or they're trying to get a leaf to eat as a giraffe or something, just getting that physicality with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they're doing and where are they,
Mm-hmm.
It's different if, you're trying to get water in the desert as a lion or something,
Right. And so are the students then, I imagine they're in their house, they're just, they're participating from a room in their house where hopefully it's quiet and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
That's great. They probably all have their own computers and everything.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's
That's
fun.
fascinating. And then you also teach just a beginner class for adults. And talk a little bit about how that's structured.
Sure. So yeah, it's kind of same. Just I think of myself being, in a class. My main thing is being comfortable in a class. So we play games. I always try to play games at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go into their, like Kate was saying, monologue and scene work and things like that, and then. Yeah, just really working on them being comfortable in the class. Like for me, I like to get centered. Hey, let's breathe and whatever's going on. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and even with you,
Yeah.
acknowledge that we're not here to change the world, but we want to be present. That's the
Right.
thing.
Right.
So I try to always.
And they in the course of the workshop, they do monologue work and they do scene work.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I've also in my classes I've been doing lots of scene work, and at first when I was starting this I was really wondering how is this going to work, but
Yeah.
I found a bunch of techniques that actually make it work. It's been fascinating.
Yeah.
And then the material for the scenes that they do you draw from uh, plays or screenplays or both, or where does that come from?
Plays. We work with
Play.
plays. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that I choose for them since they're beginner and they
Hmm.
may not necessarily know some stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I've asked them, I said, if you know something, great,
Correct.
we'll work on it, but I choose it for them
Right.
and then we work on that.
Right. And we're able to, I know that at the Bear Group, we have a lot of this information at our
Mhm.
fingertips, and we share those scripts with them so that
Oh,
they have material to work with.
yeah.
That's fantastic. I think at this point, it might be a good idea for us to just open this up for a Q&A and just see if there are any questions. So I'm going to just invite everybody in the
Cool.
session to just turn on your cameras so we can see you.
Yeah.
It's small enough of a group today that I think I can just do this visually. Normally, I walk everybody through a way to raise your hands via technology, which you can do. I will walk you through it just for fun, but if you notice on your screen, there's a button that says participants, and if you click on it, a list of the people who are currently checked in show up, and you can see all of them. And if you might notice that in that list, there's a button that says raise hand. And if you were to click on that, I'm going to go ahead and do this. You'll see that a blue hand shows up next to your name, and that'll allow me to see it. Now, I also it's small enough a group that I can see you all visually. So for today, you can just kind of raise your hand, and if you have a question, and I'll call on you. And I have no idea if people have questions or not. If not, I have questions, so I can ask more things. But Stacy, I see your hands up, so I'm gonna go ahead and Blair, go ahead and unmute Stacy, and then we can. There you go. So yeah, what's up?
Hey, Lunie, I was just wondering, because I have a couple like former New Yorker friends who live in the outer reaches of the US now, and I'm just wondering, do you have any kids from outside New York, or is it all still pretty local? And if things were to open up or people could show up with their, I guess, could the out-of-towners still kind of be involved?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it's online, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. There are. I think there was one from out of state.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And
totally.
in our other classes,
Yeah.
at this point, I literally have people from all over the world.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It's fascinating. One of the surprising gifts of this is that all of a sudden geographical limitations disappeared. Everybody's in the same boat. And so depending on the class, sometimes there are people from, and it is oddly no different than if they were next door, because they're just in their apartment
Yeah.
practicing social distancing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any
Thanks.
other questions for anybody? All right. Well, I've got some questions for you. Kate,
Yeah.
where did you train to do this stuff?
The ESL stuff.
Yeah.
The Actors Fund.
Mm-hmm. And how did that work?
They had I was trying to figure out. I'd had a child, so I'd stopped acting for a while, and I stopped working. I was very fortunate that I was able to do that. And then when he started kindergarten, I wanted to start working again, but not acting yet. Mm-hmm. And I went and I did this because I had a master's in English literature already, and so it just kind of made sense. So I started. I did a certificate in ESL at the Actors Fund. And then I just got lucky and ended up in Hunter College.
Right.
And in 2005. So I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. So the Actors Fund actually has their own classes, or is it that they sponsor you taking classes at like Hunter or
It's
something?
the Actors Fund, right? It's the Actors Fund, right? Is that where they offer like artist training and I think it was the Actors Fund. Yeah, they offered classes there.
Wow.
It's an organization for actors who want training in some other kind of work.
Yeah.
So they had classes there. They had class there, I think.
Wow.
It was a long time ago, so I'm not sure.
Did you take an instant liking to it, or how was it?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of. I taught at Columbia. I taught writing at Columbia, and I had a lot of students who were from other countries, and I loved teaching them. So that was part of it.
Fascinating. And Lunie, when did you start training to do what you're doing? I know that you went through the entire training program at the Barra Group for teacher training.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
Massachusetts. I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Yeah.
Cambridge.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Kate, where are you from originally? Well, you said New York.
New York.
Brooklyn?
No, Manhattan.
Manhattan.
18th Street.
Wow.
I'm
Oh,
wondering for our guests, where are you all? How many, by show of hands, are in one of the 5 boroughs of New York right now? Just by show of hands. Okay, that seems to be pretty much everybody, because I know that Stacy is too. Oh, there you go. Good. Anybody that I didn't see who's not in the 5 boroughs right now? Who's somewhere else? Okay, fascinating. That's rare these days. We have a lot of folks that have retreated up to Massachusetts and Vermont and all this stuff. Yeah, Kate, where are you right now?
I'm in northwestern Connecticut with a very, very, very bad cell signal.
I'm so sorry. So it's boy, we become dependent on that these days, don't we? Well, that's great. Well, this is great. I thank you guys for coming by and just allowing us to hear what you got going on. And I certainly thank everybody for coming in and listening to hear what we're going on. If you find yourself having any questions about any of these particular workshops that they're offering, you can go to barragroup.org and check that out. Also, just wanted to remind everybody that we have daily free programming at this point during the virus times, weekdays anyway. So on Mondays, we have a town hall that we're doing regularly. That's just a gathering thing we do that at 2:30 to 3:30. And then on Tuesdays, we have sample classes, and those are offered from 2:30 to 5:30. Those are drop-in classes that are free. And on Wednesdays, I've been interviewing artists. So far, we've had Purna Jagannathan, who's a television actress and a longtime member of the Barra Group, and Martin Moran, I interviewed last night, who's a writer and performer. And next week, we'll be interviewing Sarita Chowdhury, another Barra Group community member you might know her from her work in Homeland. She's does a lot of work in film and television. And we'll be speaking with her on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And then on Thursdays, we have our teacher check-ins and different teachers every week, and you can always just check to see what's going on there. And then on Friday nights, we have our sort of potpourri programming where we're doing all sorts of things. This week, we have there's a division of our development program called FAB, for, about, and by women. And they're doing presentations of short pieces that they're sharing on Friday night, and that's at 6:30. And then the following week, we're going to be having a musical evening. There are many extraordinary musical artists in the Barra Group community, and we're going to be showing some snippets of things that they've been doing during these times, and have a Q&A with all of them. So I think that's about it. So I just want to thank everybody for coming, and we'll see you around. And my gosh, stay healthy, happy, and healthy. That's the word of the day, word of the week, word of the decade, word of the century. So be well, everybody, and have a wonderful night. I'll see you all.